went, he made sure he ate well. So as soon as he was inside, he had gone to see what he could find in the freezer and found a filet mignon of seal meat. Now that was a meal. Potatoes he had found in the cold room, as well as some asparagus and carrots canned by the owners that summer. He had opened the jars and helped himself like he owned the place. Rummaging through other people's things could be a recipe for trouble. Tony McMurray knew that, and would even admit to a fair few dalliances that didn't reflect well on him. But these didn't outweigh his merits. No, there were two qualities the Newfoundlander prided himself on. One, he was a good cook. Food was so sacred to him, it had landed him some decent jobs. That was how he got to spend the winter in Cancun, working as a chef in a hotel for tourists. Two, he had a long memory. When he owed someone, he owed them, and he paid them back. If someone helped him, he remembered it, and he was willing to drop anything to pay his dues. That was the very reason he'd come up to the islands, to do Lulu a favor. With an eye as curious as it was inquisitive, he peered out at the house next door. No one in the living room. The guy must be making a bite to eat too, he figured. Since his own troubles with the police, McMurray had hated anyone who wore a uniform and carried a book of tickets, patrol cops, fisheries officers, and all. But he reasoned with himself. Lulu had said he'd only be here a matter of hours. Nothing to get himself worked up about, really. He stirred the meat and vinaigrette together and let it sit. Lucien Carpentier had said it would be a lucrative expedition. He had asked McMurray to put together a menu for 10 days or so, and said he'd take care of the food shopping. The time would fly by. By the time Valentine's Day rolled around, he'd be back with his pals, enjoying some cheap Mexican skirt. He took the potatoes he'd sliced into chips out of the water they were soaking in, dried them off and put them in a bowl, then oiled and spiced them, gave them a stir and spread them out on a baking sheet in the oven. Then he went back to the front window. The living room light came on next door. For a second, McMurray was transfixed.
Well, fuck me ragged. It's a woman.
He went to grab the telescope he'd figured the Vigneaults must use to look out to sea. Then he set it down in the hallway and focused the lens. Lucien had told him how Normand Petitpas had been given a fine, no longer ago than yesterday, out around Pointe-à-Loup, because his hackapick was a centimeter too long. The sealer had taken it the wrong way and gone on a rant. The animal rights activists were already making their lives hard enough, so the fisheries folk should just keep themselves to themselves. But most of all, and to add insult to injury for Petitpas, the officer who slapped him with the fine was a woman, a young 20-something, still wet around the ears she was. The next-door neighbor was prancing around. The floor must be cold on the feet.
Oh, she's a frigid one, too.
McMurray thought that was funny. He could see her more clearly, now that she was lighting the wood stove, as if she were right there in the next room. These heartless little woman officers who threw their weight around, they deserved to be put back in their place. And McMurray, he knew how to give a lesson to a bitch who was asking for it. He closed one eye to get a better view of her. She stood up, put a parka on, and went over to the patio door at the rear of the house.
That's nice of her, McMurray thought. She's staying right in my line of sight.
She was taking a while. She had to pull on her boots, he figured. And then she stepped out onto the porch. A gust of wind made her take a step back. She tugged her hood up over her head, stray locks whirling wildly in all directions. She went over to the woodshed and loaded her arms with firewood. She had picked up more than she could carry, he could see that much. She faltered as she climbed the porch steps, dropped a few logs, ducked inside, closed the door behind her, probably with her foot. McMurray wondered if she was going to lock it. It would be easy to sneak over there. He wouldn't even need to go via the road. The ground was frozen, the snow blown away by the wind. All he'd have to do was walk across the dune, between the bowed heads of the sea wheatgrass, to reach the neighbor's patio door. She put the firewood down by the stove, took off her coat. If she had been keeping an eye on the seal hunt all day, she must be cold. She would have a shower, maybe sit down to eat in her dressing gown, unless she had plans to go out. He went back into the kitchen, flipped the chips over on the baking sheet, and put them back in the oven. He liked it when a girl...